100,000 Jamaican men and women have since independence called on the British monarch and British institutions to pay reparations for the illegal enslavement of Africans. Reparations now. Reparations now.
Amanza! 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 Amanza!
Welcome to Burkina Faso, the land of the upright peoples. This trip is the official program of the High Council of Burkinabés in Great Britain. Demotivatorshow are backers and cultural partners. You are all most welcome. This trip to Burkina Faso will be good for you, good for your family, good for our futures. Meet people who will meet you with open arms and respect. The world is invited that on 17th of March to the 1st of April, the rising of the rising spirit, vast golden landscapes that touch the soul, a culture woven with warmth, and a people whose spirit shines bright. Come, feel the warmth. Come, discover the rising spirit. Burkina Faso is a holiday destination, is a safe investment opportunity. Gozaso, a great place to build your family. Visit Burkina Faso. Come. It's safe. Visit. Come. It's safe. Visit Burkina Faso. Come. Visit. It's safe. Come. It's safe. People with a strong culture and tradition. It's peaceful. A great place to live. It's peaceful. A great place to have your family. It's peaceful. It is safe. Breaking the chains of colonial control, we will define our identity. We will define our nations. We will define our future.
Everyone, I am Lexia Lewis Hines, principal of the New Building Early Childhood Institution in New Building, Nain, St. Elizabeth. We were adversely affected by the passing of Hurricane Melissa on October 28, 2025. And as such, we lost our school roof, we have lost furniture, books, and other learning materials for our young ones. I am hereby making a plea asking for any contribution that can be given to assist us in further renovating our school building so that our students can return to some semblance of normalcy. We have already received some donations and we're able to cover half the roof. The other half is patched up with the old zinc that was there from before. And as such, any contribution is an investment in our young ones, the future generation. And so this is my plea, asking for any contribution that can be given in assisting us to be better able to facilitate our young students. Thank you so very much.
New Building, Early Childhood School, New Buildings District, Nain, St. Elizabeth, Jamaica. On behalf of PMP UK, we hope you would agree that this school needs to be rebuilt so that the children can enjoy the teaching and learning experience. Support the Hurricane Melissa Disaster Relief Fund to build back better the school. Send your donation, whatever you can afford, to PNP UK. That's at NatWest Bank, sort code 600802, account number 2986123, and in the bank reference, please quote DRF Melissa. Thank you for considering. Thank you for your donations. Hundreds of thousands Jamaican men and women have since independence called on the British monarch and British institutions to pay reparations for the illegal enslavement of Africans. Reparations now! Reparations now!
Amanza! 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 Amanza!
Welcome to Burkina Faso, the land of the upright peoples. This trip is the official program of the High Council of Burkinabés in Great Britain. Demotivatorshow are backers and cultural partners. You are all most welcome. This trip to Burkina Faso will be good for you, good for your family, good for our futures. Meet people who will meet you with open arms and respect. The world is invited that on 17th of March to the 1st of April, the risings of the rising spirit, vast golden landscapes that touch the soul, a culture woven with warmth, and a people whose spirit shines bright. Come, feel the warmth. Come, discover the rising spirit. Burkina Faso is a holiday destination, is a safe investment opportunity. Gozaso, a great place to build your family. Visit Burkina Faso. Come. It's safe. Visit. Come. It's safe. Visit Burkina Faso. Come. Visit. It's safe. Come. It's safe. People with a strong culture and traditions. It's peaceful. A great place to live. It's peaceful. A great place to have your family. It's peaceful. It is safe. Breaking the chains of colonial control, we will define our identity. We will define our nations. We will define our future.
Everyone, I am Lexia Lewis Hines, principal of the New Building Early Childhood Institution in New Building, Nain, St. Elizabeth. We were adversely affected by the passing of Hurricane Melissa on October 28, 2025. And as such, we lost our school roof, we have lost furniture, books, and other learning materials for our young ones. I am hereby making a plea asking for any contribution that can be given to assist us in further renovating our school building so that our students can return to some semblance of normalcy. We have already received some donations and we're able to cover half the roof. The other half is patched up with the old zinc that was there from before. And as such, any contribution is an investment in our young ones, the future generation. And so this is my plea, asking for any contribution that can be given in assisting us to be better able to facilitate our young students. Thank you so very much.
New building, Early Childhood School, New Buildings District, Nain, St. Elizabeth, Jamaica. On behalf of PNP UK, we hope you would agree that this school needs to be rebuilt so that the children can enjoy the teaching and learning experience. Support the Hurricane Melissa Disaster Relief Fund to build back better the school. Send your donation, whatever you can afford, to PNP UK. That's at NatWest Bank, sort code 600802, account number 298612333. And in the bank reference, please quote DRF Melissa. Thank you for considering. Thank you for your donations.
It's the motivator here. Yes, I'm here. It's the motivator here, because this is where we translate our words into action. And where success is absolutely ours for the taking. How you feeling, people? How you feeling? Today, I've got another inspirational podcast. It's going to blow your socks off. Why? Because we're speaking to ordinary people about matters of fundamental importance. In approximately 20 minutes' time, we'll have our keynote speaker, and I'm assuring you, he's truly an inspirational personality. Okay, but between now and then, you know, the Motivator Show, this channel, is a campaigning channel on those issues of concern to the wider communities. And we will remain consistent, relentless in bringing to your attention issues to which the national, international media, those big media corporations will approach these issues with but a flash and then move on elsewhere. Not here. We will remain consistent and forthright in our determination that those issues of real concern to the community are brought to your attention. And particularly those issues that it's suggested that we should not discuss in public. Well, we're going to defy such suggestions. And the first issue we bring to your attention, and one that many of you may only be aware of in a sort of peripheral way, but for the communities to which they are directly impacting, it is well known, it is profound, and it is felt to be so deeply entrenched as to be unchangeable. The whole purpose of the Motivator channel is that we bring you good evidence, good quality information. So you are the change makers. Yes, you are the change makers. So you together with us can effect change that will improve people's lives. So the first issue we must bring to your attention is, of course, the issue of FGM. For those of you who are not unsure what that acronym means, it means female genital mutilation. That's what it means. And it's exactly what it says. That's what it is. Whether it happens to a baby, happen to a woman when they're a baby, it's going to right, yeah, it's still removing intimate parts of a woman's body. Mm-hmm. If it happens to you when you are a young girl, it is trauma. If it happens to you, gosh, when you're a young woman, that is lifetime changing trauma. I've spoken to women for whom this has been a fact from when they're babies, when it happened to them when they're 8 or 9 years old, and even I'm pleased less than a handful of cases where it happened when they are late teens, early 20s. Yeah. within my immediate ethnic group, ethnic group, it is not a tradition. But there's lots of cross-fertilization going on across the African ethnic groups, aren't there? Huh? And we're encountering women for whom this is a fact, and they have to explain this has happened to them, so they appear to be different. Some cases it's accepted, but they can't recall the trauma. Other cases it had difficulties, great real difficulties for childbirth and enjoying, yeah. For this and many myriad reasons, it is an issue that we will continue to bring to your attention during our live broadcast. An issue for which I urge those political, but most certainly the traditional leaders, to take seriously. To take seriously. What we hope, forgive me, it is now happening, that this change will be gradual in some cases, but we are confident that we are part of that wind of change. We're at the tip of the spur. That's right. We are past that wind of change. We've got to stick to our principles, hold fast, hold true to the direction that the mutilation of women, mutilation of girls, mutilation of baby girls is wrong. It is wrong. I say again, it is wrong. I'm honored that within my many networks, I built up strong friendships. One good friend who's been here on the Motivator Show on a number of occasions is an FGM survivor. Her name is Naima Ali. I want you now to listen to her words, and you tell me if you could defy her desire for change.
Naima Ali, FGM ambassador for Southwark in London, is the founder of Unshackled Duma. Unshackled Duma is a London-based organisation that empowers women and girls, particularly from Black, Asian and world majority community and Muslim communities. The organisation focuses on promoting self-empowerment, autonomy and advocacy with a strong emphasis on combating female genital mutilation, FGM. It raises awareness about FGM's harmful effects and supports survivors and works towards eradicating the practice. Unshackled Duma can be contacted via this email address: unshackledduma followed by digit 2 at gmail.com. I repeat, unshackledduma followed by digit 2 at gmail.com.
Very important. And if you're able to reach out to her, please do. Many hundreds have done so. And we are pleased that the wind of change is carrying apace. Well done, Naima Ali. Keep up the good work. We'll get her back here in a few months' time. Really to understand how the progress we've made. Thank you again, each and every one of you who have joined and understood the importance of that particular campaign. And I need to move very quickly to another one of our campaigns here at the Motivator Show, a campaign about an issue of true social injustice. I want to talk about the issue of the so-called Windrush generation. Now, it's a euphemism to describe people who were encouraged by British governments to come to Britain after the war, because, of course, there were many vacancies. And the fact that Britain was able to fill those vacancies was undermining Britain's economic well-being. It wasn't creating the wealth at the level it could because it didn't have the workforce. So Britain called out to the Caribbean and Africa and encouraged able men and women, qualified able men and women, to come to Britain to work. And they did. in their hundreds of thousands, causing, I might add, significant brain drain in the Caribbean, because of course the best and brightest often were leaving. Same, of course, particularly in West Africa, Ghana and Nigeria were also suffering similar fates. They came and respond to the call, both by the Crown and indeed by the successive British Prime Ministers. Many of you will be well aware now that Parliament, despite the fact it had passed the 1948 Act, which made it clear that if you were born in the so-called British Commonwealth, latter-day Empire, that you were British. You were British. My parents, invited to come here, arrived here as British citizens under the 1948 Act. The challenge, of course, for Britain, of course, that these were people who were from Africa, the Caribbean and Africa. Different culture, different traditions, but all spoke English. But they're hard workers. As a former Prime Minister here would have said, they were true grafters, hard workers. And they did. And that Windrush generation made a significant economic contribution to improving Britain's economic well-being, a recognition few in high places ever mention in this general discourse. And why is it brought to your attention now? Because despite the fact Britain's Parliament passed the 1948 Act, ensuring that my parents and its generation were British, by 1971-72, they started to take away the Britishness of those people they attracted from the Caribbean and, of course, Africa. Which then subsequently, by the 2012, became the Windrush scandal. Because suddenly, hundreds of thousands of these very same people were no longer referred to being British. Some were reported being illegal immigrants. Can you imagine? And they've been here during the best time, the most productive times of their life. The United Nations, of course, will recognize this as being racism in its most awful and disgusting form. We call it for what it is, an injustice. So you've seen here a series of episodes here on Demotivatorshow, principally with Anthony Brown, who's calling for a Windrush Act to enshrine in law the status of those who came here in response to Britain's call for workers from across the Commonwealth. A former Prime Minister who could arguably be identified as being one of the primary architects of the Windrush scandal. Her name is Theresa May. Made it clear to the Commonwealth heads of government that these people, those who came here, are British and they are a part of us. If you doubt my word, I want you now to listen to this campaign for a Windrush Act and hear the voice of the former Prime Minister, Theresa May, making exactly that statement.
On Tuesday, I met with Caribbean leaders, where I gave an absolute commitment that the UK government will do whatever it takes, including where appropriate payment of compensation, to resolve the anxieties and problems which some of the Windrush generation have suffered. These people are British, they are part of us, they helped to build Britain, and we are all the stronger for their contributions.
Solicitor and Windrush pioneer Anthony Brown, and Windrush pioneers and their descendants, we're calling for a Windrush Act in recognition by the United Kingdom that its past actions have unfairly impacted on people of African Caribbean descent, both living in the United Kingdom and in its former colonies. It is a recognition that this impact has consequences across all aspects of people's lives. Citizenship, community cohesion, education, criminal justice, work, health. The Windrush Act places a duty on public bodies to reduce race disparities for outcomes in their work, as exposed by the government race disparities audit. Solicitor and Windrush pioneer Anthony Brown. Windrush pioneers and their descendants. We're calling for a Windrush Act, an apology for the wrongs that have been done historically by the United Kingdom to people of African Caribbean descent. These wrongs are clearly defined in the Wendy Williams Lessons Learned Review, and it is to the righting of these wrongs that the Windrush Act is addressed. This is not to say that there are not similar wrongs done to other cohorts of people that need to be addressed by similar legislation. This apology is enacted in law so that it's clearly an apology from the nation rather than a here today, gone tomorrow politician. Solicitor and Windrush pioneer Anthony Brown. Windrush pioneers and their descendants. We're calling for a Windrush Act. Reparations for past wrongs. The reparation for Windrush pioneers who are today living with the consequences of Britain's past wrongs. It is reparation that goes beyond mere financial compensation to individuals, but instead provides resources to affected peoples and communities to support them in what they want to do with their lives. To this end, the Windrush Act will establish a Commonwealth Community Cohesion Fund for the development of projects in the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth to tackle disparities and rebuild social, economic ties of communities damaged by the Windrush scandals and other historic unfair actions negatively impacting on this cohort. Solicitor and Windrush pioneer Anthony Brown. Windrush pioneers and their descendants. We're calling for a Windrush Act. Restitution. Since 1948, the citizenship of those who arrived on the Windrush and that of their descendants has been repeatedly eroded, particularly by the 1971 Immigration Act and by the current hostile environment. This erosion leaves many within the African Caribbean cohort finding themselves British in all but name, and therefore having to prove their Britishness when it was Britain that eroded and undermined their Britishness in the first place. The Windrush Act fully restores the Britishness to this cohort. Solicitor and Windrush pioneer Anthony Brown. Windrush pioneers and their descendants. We're calling for a Windrush Act, remembering to this day, the United Kingdom prefers to tell a story about its colonial past that is often unrecognizable to those who live that past. Only by telling a more honest story about its colonial past can the country show that its citizens of colonial descent are as worthy citizens as any other. The Windrush Act holds the state and its education system to a more honest telling. The Windrush Act remembers what Great Britain meant to those pioneering men and women who saw in the country a set of ideals and values that led them to board the SS Windrush in 1948. We're calling for a Windrush Act. Actions speak louder than words. The time for action is now. Translate our words into action. Contact WD Legal. Website address www.wdlegal.co.uk. Join the campaign to secure the Windrush Act. Together, we will make the difference. Hashtag Windrush Act Now.
Absolutely. I know you understand why that was a slightly extended identification of an issue that is affecting hundreds of thousands of people here in Britain for no fault of their own. I say again, it could be argued that Britain's Parliament has exhibited the highest form of racism. I'm using that word deliberately because there are no other words that would accurately describe what has befallen that communities. Can you imagine being encouraged, enticed to come to a country, yeah, and be a full working member of that country, pay your taxes, make positive contributions, then of course become stateless. Yes, we will never give up. We will remain relentless in our pursuit for justice here in Britain. Well done, Anthony. Well done to each and every one of you, members of the Windrush National Organisation. Keep up the good work. We remain relentless, forthright. We will never give up what is right. Justice is on our side. Praise be. Praise be. Okay, I've got 4 minutes before we go to our keynote dialogue, and I'm assuring you, you're going to really enjoy this one. Okay. The last issue I wish to bring to your attention, of course, is one that we have discussed previously. We here at the Demotivatorshow have had a series of episodes which have focused on Burkina Faso. Mm-hmm. Why? Because Burkina Faso is led by, forgive my terminology, sir, a youth. We call him a youth in the Caribbean, a youth. Mm-hmm. Why? 16 to 35, at least for my age group, are young people. What he has demonstrated is intelligence, compassion, strong governance ethics, visionary leadership. And he's been able to overcome the so-called differences amongst the various ethnic groups that make up Burkina Faso, and has created unity, because the people recognize in unity is strength. And we, each and every one of us, would have been observing Burkina Faso and the neighboring countries of Niger and Mali, and their rapid advancements since they've been able to take absolute control of the land, of the economy. I repeat, absolute control of the land and the economy. Unlike the country of my birth, Jamaica, in which at the point of its so-called independence, those families who control the economies, those families who are principally involved in the enslavement of the vast majority African population, remain in absolute control of the economy. yeah, indeed. Was that independence? I have to question it. And if there are Jamaicans who think it was independence, I'd love to hear from you. Oh my God, I'd love to hear from you. Oh my God, I'd love you to come forward and speak up. I'd love to hear from you. Why? Why would I love to hear from you? Not in any way to dismiss you, but for us to have that honest discussion. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I'll put our contact details up shortly, but I will remain, in fact, let me do it now. There you go. There you are. If you wish to talk to us about Jamaican independence, please, there you are. I'll bring it into the center. Demotivatorshow 501 at gmail.com. Write to us here. Demotivatorshow 501 at gmail.com. Love to hear from you. I really would love to hear from you. Okay. But returning to Burkina Faso. So Burkina Faso is now experiencing a high level of economic and social growth. Captain, indeed, His Excellency President Ibrahim Traoré is now a beacon of excellence throughout the continent of Africa, indeed across the world, how good governance can be delivered to the people. This has nothing to do with democracy. It is all about the people taking control and work together in common aim and common purpose, and understanding if they work together, more likely to grow together. You can individually go quickly and accumulate a lot of wealth for yourself, but if you want to go far, if you want to go consistently, if you want to make sure that the next generation will benefit from your achievements, we all go together, holding hands, supporting each other together. And that is what Captain Ibrahim Traoré, President indeed, of Burkina Faso, has delivered both for that country, for the member countries of what they refer to being the Sahel countries, Mali and Niger, and is demonstrating what ECOWAS, in other words, this is a subunit of the African Union, should have been achieving years ago, decades ago. Burkina Faso, alongside its partners, Niger and Mali, are leading the charge to how African liberation should work. You must have complete control of the land. You must have complete control of the economy. And thereby, you have control of your education system, training system, university system. Have control of all aspects of the country's economy. And in doing so, you work for the benefit of the people. This is what Michael Mann in Jamaica, back in the 80s, that's what he wanted to achieve. And why a nation which says it's great bullied Jamaica into another direction. No. The Motivator Show, working with the High Council of Burkina here in Britain. You've seen, we met Sir Wen Panya on a number of occasions, and we'll be here shortly. We're organising a trip to Burkina Faso. We urge you to join us. It will be safe. It will be fantastic. Guest of the nations. Guest, not simply visitors, guests of the nations. There's a difference between simply being a visitor and being a guest. We will be guests of that great country, Burkina Faso. It's a place that we all should be visiting. And watch this. And I'm sure you would agree with me after watching this, that in fact, we've all been missing out on a great deal, because much of the propaganda we're exposed to is designed to separate us from the homeland, as it were. A land of milk and honey, a land where there's genuine opportunity. Here we go.
Discover Burkina Faso, the place of the rising spirit. The calling has gone out. Go to website address letsdiscoverburkina.com. letsdiscoverburkina.com. You are invited to visit on 17th of March to the 1st of April 2027. We are a holiday destination. Many investment opportunities. We are family friendly. A great place just to relax. Go to website address letsdiscoverburkina.com. Visit Burkina Faso. Visit Burkina Faso. Visit Burkina Faso. Visit Burkina Faso. Visit Burkina Faso.
Yes!
Very good, huh? And if you've seen the website address, it's in fact, let me put up on. Can I put up on the screen for you? We go. Oh, maybe I can't put up on the screen. I urge you to join us in Burkina Faso, and it will be from the 17th of March to the 1st of April, 2027. It will be a truly inspiring experience. Yeah, let's go to Burkina Faso. Thank you. Reply. In fact, reply to us. Why not reply to us? Go to the website, of course. Go to the website and you see the details. It will be fantastic. Okay. I can't wait. I truly can't wait. I'm so excited. I really can't. Okay. It's now time for our keynote dialogue. The keynote dialogue addresses the issue, and I mentioned Jamaica a few moments ago, that it is unfinished business in Jamaica. I mentioned that, in fact, just where we're clear, we're mentioned at the point of independence, so-called. Let's be sure. Those responsible for enslaving African population hold sway over the economy. They held sway over the economy. So any attempt for progressive ideas to extend the franchise, to ensure wealth was getting to the mass of the peoples, was always being thwarted. But they always operated behind the shadows, as it were. So you blame people that look like me, as opposed to those who were actually the families. Who look like, I have to say, the King of England. Yeah. And that's the fact. It is unfinished business in Jamaica. I'm pleased that, in fact, Jamaica is moving toward a position in which it's now will ask for reparations from Britain. Yeah. I'm pleased that it is moving forward, okay? Somewhat sluggishly for me, of course, but it is moving forward. And that's really an indication of the hold these families and these interests continue to hold over the Jamaican economy. It is profound and it's deep. And they've also inserted the idea of colorism as well, darker skin and lighter skin African peoples, yeah, as a mean to divide and rule, which will come out in our dialogue in a few moments' time. And in many ways, the approach is quite sophisticated because it gives some people a sense of, well, superiority. Yes. And justifications to suppress the economic growth of the island. But it's made up of some incredible people, and you see them across the world, not unlike the Igbo people of Nigeria. Yeah. Achievers, strivers, grafters, yeah? Incredible creative mind, big minds. Yeah, it is remarkable. And in fact, you go right across the Caribbean, places like Barbados or Trinidad, Grenada. And remember, Grenada came before Jamaica. It's trying to break out of the stranglehold of the old colonial rulers. I give praise and respect to Moorish Bishop. Yeah. And if you don't know who he is, just put in your search engine, Moorish Bishop, former Prime Minister of Grenada. And look at what the Americans did to a tiny speck of an island of only a few thousand people against a world superpower with tens of millions of people and worth tens of trillions of dollars. That's how afraid they are that you, particularly African people watching this right now, are able to open your eyes, open your minds, and see yourself for who you really are. This will come out in this dialogue. And the person I'm engaged in my dialogue, oh gosh, he demonstrated an innate strength that permeates not only people of Jamaica, but right across the Caribbean. I've seen it in the United States of America. I've seen it in Brazil, South America. I absolutely have seen it across the continent of Africa, that innate strength. Praise be, praise be. At this point, I always say, praise Jah, Rastafari, and I affirm my ancestral lineage by that statement. I affirm my ancestral lineage. So listen here, listen keenly to this dialogue between me and an ordinary Jamaican man.
Hundreds of thousands of Jamaican men and women have since independence called on the British monarch and British institutions to pay reparations for the illegal enslavement of Africans. Reparations now. Reparations now.
It's the motivator here, and this is where we translate our words into action. And where success, I say again, where success is absolutely ours for the taking. Hey, people, I've got another inspirational podcast ahead of us today. And today's show will be particularly special. So typically, I have guests who are high-flying individuals with lots of credentials. You know them. But today's show will feature a Jamaican man. Yes, an ordinary Jamaican man who thinks about the issues of reparation and Jamaican societies. Okay? And as someone who has written an interesting article, which what caught my attention, and the article, the very simple article in terms of its title, and one that every Jamaican, every person in the US, Europe, or indeed Africa, who within their family line had relatives, ancestors who were enslaved by Europeans. The article written, what caught my attention is this: they must pay for enslaving us. Pretty direct language, huh? And it's caught my attention, because believe it or not, ordinary Jamaicans generally don't put their thoughts in writing in this way. So this particular gentleman, I reached out to him and asked, would you like to have a rapport with the motivator? To which he graciously responded, yes, I want to talk about my article. I said, yeah, it's right here. Joe, I want you first of all, Joe, just to introduce yourself, say your name, and you might, if you don't mind, just say a little bit about yourself in terms of where you come from in Jamaica and what motivates you as a person. Go ahead, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Martin, for this opportunity to make a contribution to your podcast.
Pleasure.
Yes, my name is Joseph Jarrett. People used to call, when I was young, people called me Joe Jarrett. But
Joe
Joe Jarrett, yes. But since I returned from England, I was in England for some 32 years. I was actually born in Jamaica. I was born in the parish of Trelawney. And born in a place called Daniel Town, which is in the parish of Trelawney, up in the hill, Trelawney. And I was born in the year 1953. And I spent my first 6 years living in Jamaica, living in Daniel Town. And then at the age of 6, I left Jamaica, mainly because my parents, my mother and father, had migrated to England. So I joined them in 1959, and at the age of 6, and I stayed in England for 32 years. I went to school there, primary school, infant school, primary school. I
Okay.
went to a comprehensive high school in Elton, which is in southeast London.
Yes.
I studied law. I worked in local government in London local government for 18 years, from 1974 until I left England in 1992. I worked for four borough councils, starting with Greenwich Borough Council. I was there for about a year. From there, I went to Hammersmith and Fulham. I was there for about 2.5 years. I went to Bexley, London Borough of Bexley, for about 2 years. And then in 1982, I got a position with Brent Council.
Mm-hmm.
And I was with Brent for almost, 10 years, from 1982 to 92. In 1992, I decided I wanted to return to Jamaica to essentially to practice law. So I enrolled myself at the Norman Manley Law School, and I qualified as an attorney at law in 1994, and I've been practicing law in Jamaica since 1992.
Jamaica, we're returning home. Jamaicans returned home from Britain with many skills and experience, determined to make a positive contribution to the land of their birth. Educators, engineers, healthcare workers, entrepreneurs, creatives. Jamaica, out of many, one people.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yes.
Yes, good
Yes.
for you. Good for you. And that's really an impressive profile. So you spent most of your formative years here in Britain, even though you were born in Jamaica. And in turn, you develop professional skills, and you return to Jamaica with those skills, and are now contributing to Jamaican society using your law skills.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Now, I have to say, again, you piqued my interest even further. This is a story, as it were, that we don't hear of enough. That Jamaicans and others whose parents essentially were encouraged to come to Britain. You know, we call it over here the so-called Windrush generation, as it were. You know, encouraged to come to Britain, take advantage of the many vacancies that were here, develop those skills as you've developed, and then in turn repatriate yourself back to Jamaica, and are now making and have made a positive contribution to Jamaican society. Wow. Because there's so many still here, you know.
Yes. And I'm very proud of that contribution. I mean, I spent 18 years in London local government, and immediately when I became an attorney at law, I became a legal consultant in the Ministry of Local Government in Jamaica. And I was in that position for 3 years. And in those 3 years, I spent time modernizing the local government system in Jamaica as part of a team. And my input was basically to reform modernize the laws and introduce, new ways of doing things. That would benefit the local government system in Jamaica, which included updating the laws and ensuring that the Jamaican local government was protected in the Jamaican Constitution. And that was one of my proudest achievement of my life, to make that kind of contribution. Having spent 18 years in English local government, gone back to Jamaica, again, find a position in the local government system in Jamaica, and using my experience in English local government to try to make a difference in the country of my birth.
Before we continue, we ask for your support. If you believe in the mission of the Demotivatorshow to inform, inspire, educate and empower the African diaspora and our friends around the world, please take a moment to like this video. Every like helps more people discover these important conversations. Leave a comment below. We read your views, your experiences, and your suggestions, and they often help shape our future programs. If you've not already done so, subscribe to the channel. We are building a growing community of people committed to truth, self-determination, Pan-African progress, and a positive change. Please share this video with your family, your friends, your colleagues, your social media networks, and share could be the reason someone discovers information that changes their perspective forever. And finally, press the bell icon and select all notifications so you never miss an interview, analysis, a discussion, or a special broadcast. Thank you for your continued support. Together, we inform, inspire, and build a brighter future. Welcome to the Motivator Show.
Thank you. Can I just pick up on that? But of course, the article, they must pay for enslaving us. Can I ask you, I want to talk about the article in detail, but what is the, as it were, the thrust, the reason, the motivation why you wrote the article, they must pay for enslaving us? Why? Why did you want to write that article?
Well, I first of all, I've always been a person who followed the struggles, the great struggles of our people, whether it's in Jamaica, in the United Kingdom, in Africa, in America, in South America, and so forth. I've always been the person who had an interest, a very strong interest in the struggles of our people. In the last 400 years of world history. And history was one of the things I really loved when I was at school. And after school, I continued to read history, all kinds of books on history. And I developed a particular knowledge about the sufferings of our people. And so I began to see where people who were suffered, other races who had suffered to an even lesser extent than ourselves, were being paid compensation for even a shorter period of time. So when I observed that the German government...
Well, let me... If I may, so before we get into the article, so what you wanted to do was to articulate a position from an African Jamaican perspective. That,
That's correct.
You wanted to express your feelings about, in this case, the German government, which you could talk about in a moment. Okay. Compensating local people, compensating local people, but yet resisting compensating Africans. And we'll get into the article for who arguably who experience far greater social damage. Okay, but why put it in an article? Because often, I mean, many Jamaicans and others, of course, they want to talk about it in a pub or a wine bar or wherever, as it were, But very rarely do they want to put pen to paper. What motivated you to put pen to paper, as it were, to record your thoughts and put it in the public domain? What was the impetus behind that?
Well, first of all, I regarded it as another struggle, another fight.
Okay.
A fight for compensation. And because of my legal training, I thought that I should articulate how the justification for compensation, which is what I tried to do in the article. by looking at the compensation of for the enslavement by by the German nation of
Yes.
non-Aryan people, non-white people in their factory for just a period of 5 years.
Yes.
They
In fact,
endured tremendous suffering just a period of 5 years. But then I look at
yes.
we enjoyed it for over 300 years.
Forgive me,
And
Joe. Forgive me, Joe. Forgive me, Joe. Hold on. So remember, my question here is the principle: why put it in writing? Why write it out? Why? No, you could talk about it, but why? What motivated you to actually put it in a article form and place it in the public domain?
Right.
Well, why do that? We're getting into the substance of the article in a moment, but I did want to understand what motivated you to put the article together. Yep, go ahead.
Because I felt it, I needed to get it across to a greater number of people. Away from, let's say, a discussion in a drinking parlor or anything like that. I needed to articulate it in a way that it would get to a greater number of people. And also, I felt that there were our leaders in Jamaica needed to see the argument for reparation in writing.
Absolutely, yes.
And so that was the real motivation, to articulate it, put it in writing, to allow a great number of people to basically read what I was saying, so that they can understand it and probably do their own research.
Well said. I've got that. Yeah. Well said. And that makes perfect sense. And we want to encourage more Jamaicans and indeed more people from the Caribbean, more Africans across the Americas, and indeed here in Europe, to do the same. Put your thoughts in writing. Yep, and trust me, it therefore is logged, and we build up a body of evidence that those who enslaved us find difficult to resist. Let me go to the article in proper in that case. And in your the first paragraph, of course, you say this: the news that the German state and a number of German companies have agreed to pay $5.1 billion to compensate slave laborers who toiled for the Nazis during the Second World War is a welcome victory for the survivors and their families. For this, the most shameful episode in German history.
Germany did pay financial compensation to former World War II forced and slave laborers. But these payments did not begin until decades after the war. Initially, West Germany in 1953, in the Federal Compensation Act, largely excluded forced laborers, particularly those from Eastern Europe and non-racially or non-politically persecuted groups. During the Cold War, West Germany refused to send compensation fund behind what was then the Iron Curtain, or East Germany. In July 2000, following lawsuits in the United States court and heavily diplomatic pressure, the German federal government and a coalition of German companies established the EVZ Foundation, which in English means Remembrance, Responsibility and Future Foundation. The foundation was capitalized at 10.1 billion Deutschmarks, about $4.5 billion, shared equally by the German government and German business between 2001 and 2007. Roughly 1.6 million survivors and their legal heirs worldwide receive the funds distributed.
So at this point, you are complimenting the German state for agreeing to pay $5.1 billion for those who were enslaved and told in the German factories during the Second World War. Would I be correct in interpreting that particular paragraph correctly?
Yes. I complimented them because I thought they made the right decision. And when people make the right decision, you need to encourage them to even go further. So,
absolutely.
So that was the reason why I complimented them, because there's still a lot of unfinished business to be done.
Absolutely.
So, but they made the first step, and therefore, when somebody makes the first step, you compliment.
And you're right, and it's a good way to start, isn't it? To compliment the German government.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
The second paragraph of this article says, Germany, together with a number of key Western powers, including the USA, United Kingdom, France, Holland, Belgium, Portugal, Spain, and Denmark, as the main culprits, need also to come to terms with their role in the transatlantic slave trade and the colonization of Africa for a period of over 300 years. And the much more horrendous scale than Germany use of slave labor during the Second World War. Okay, so just give us the meaning behind that paragraph of your article, because you're identifying the principal European enslaver nations.
Yeah.
But are you asking at this point for those countries to whilst you complimented Germany in the previous paragraph, here you are identifying the principal European enslaver nations, okay, for what was you're saying here is a much greater crime. But is that a correct interpretation?
Yes, that is correct. That is correct. And one needed to. I was really calling them out. I was naming them, and that it's important to do, and ask, demand that they follow the German example and compensate Africans for the tremendous damage, destruction that they've committed in terms of during the transatlantic slave trade, which lasts for over 200 years.
Thank you.
I was calling them out.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you. Yeah. The third paragraph is quite an important one, and because we've now identified the Jewish community. And you say here, there is little doubt that the Jewish lobby should be congratulated for using their considerable power and influence, especially through their influence in the Clinton administration, to persuade Germany that it would be in their interest to come up with a more generous compensation package. The tactics used by the lawyers representing the survivors should be studied by all those who believe that Western countries should also provide reparations to Africans for their enslavement. Just clarify what you meant by that paragraph. You complimenting the Jewish lobby. Are you complimenting the Jewish lobby and their lawyers on the strategy or the principle?
Well, I think I was complimenting them on both the strategy and the principle. And, I saw where they organized themselves in a way which was to their advantage, because most of a good number of the persons who were enslaved, but in the German factories concentration camps were Jewish people.
Indeed.
So
Yes.
they identified, they knew that, well, historically, since the end of the Second World War, the Jews have always wanted to get some kind of compensation for the sufferings which they had endured and the return of their stolen assets, business, and so forth, or compensation for what was taken from them. So they organized themselves in such a way as to prevail. They had influence they had big influence in America, as we all know, and they used that influence in order to prevail on the German government to give a substantial compensation package just for not for the and this is a part separate from the millions who were murdered. These are the persons who were in the in the factories rather.
Yes.
Also worked in the concentration camps as slave labor. So for that part of what Germany did, they were seeing compensation. They organized themselves, and they secured a victory. And
Absolutely.
I thought that it was important to mention this because it shows that if you're organized and if you're determined, you can really prevail. So to me, what the Jews did in getting compensation, their effort in getting compensation, is something which Africans who are well positioned in the United States and in other Western countries, but most importantly in the United States, we could use that
as a stratagem.
to really secure victory as far as reparations is concerned.
Can I, in that case, then, if I may, then, Joe, just take you to your next paragraph. Okay, let me just read this because it's for the benefit of the audience. The next paragraph says this. In August of this year, and I believe when you wrote this, it was in, 1999 Yep, okay. In August of this year, it was announced that Africa is demanding $777 trillion from Western Europe and the Americas in reparation for enslaving Africans. The announcement was made in Accra, Ghana, by the African World Reparations and Reparations Truth Commission. It was also announced that the commission would set up an international team of lawyers from Africa and the diaspora to pursue all legal means to collect the money. The commission stated all those nations of Western Europe and the Americas and institutions who participated and benefited from the slave trade and colonialism. So that's their target audience. Just tell us about that, because it's not generally recognised that this commission existed, and the intent of those African nations to seek out the reparations to this degree of $777 trillion. Tell us more about that.
Yeah.
Tell us more. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was a revelation when I learned of that, and I learned of that in Jamaica. Whilst being in Jamaica, there was a radio program called Running Africa, and that station has been RFM is the name of the station. But that program is something that I've always listened to ever since I heard of it, because they come up with some very interesting developments concerning Africa, Jamaica, the diaspora, and Pan-Africanism in general.
Okay.
So I always felt reparation was unfinished business for us. For us as a people, it's unfinished business. And it was, when I heard that this commission had made this announcement, I was really encouraged. I felt that this is something which has been a long time in the making,
Mm-hmm.
and I was delighted to see this develop. So
Good.
I mentioned it in the article because I felt it was important to mention. Because
Thank you. Yes.
it was very important to mention. So I mentioned it.
Thank you. And I'll put these figures up on the screen in the final version of our dialogue. That was a very, very important paragraph.
Yeah.
But interestingly, you then go on to say your next paragraph, Rastafarians stood alone. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me read this section. For years, Rastafari have been calling for reparations. Yep. They have stood alone, often to the point of ridicule by the intelligentsia, the Jamaican intelligentsia. Don't we know them well, huh? The commission demands are a vindication of their vision. It is unfortunate that very few media houses carried the news coming out of Africa, which I first heard from IEFM, as you mentioned, during the Andrea William Green's wonderful Sunday morning program. Okay. The Running African, and later picked, I think you say here, if I read it correctly, up on the interest and the lack of coverage as a clear reflection of the many years of hard work which lies ahead before one of the greatest crimes against humanity can be laid to rest. For the African diaspora, the whole issue surrounding reparations represents unfinished business which will follow us into the 21st century. Our prescience is that. You most certainly were anticipating the future. Tell us more. I know you talked to it, but tell us more about this mention. I wanted to talk about Rastafari because, of course, you and I are both Jamaicans. Yes, go ahead. Tell us.
First of all, for years, for many years, the Rastafarian brothers and sisters have been calling for repatriation, that is, return of our people to Africa, and reparation, compensation for the sufferings of our people. And they have been the vanguard of our struggle for justice on this planet for a very, very long time. And sometimes, other people who really don't understand the nature of our struggle, they would ridicule them for their looks and for their message. But their message is a mighty one. They've always been one of my great motivators. Their music and what they stand for, their strength of character.
Absolutely.
And their humanity.
Yes.
I've always been impressed.
Praise God.
And I've said to people many times that the Rastafarians lead our struggle.
Yes.
Both in the 20th century and coming into the 21st century. And that is why people like Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, and the rest of the great conscious reggae musicians are well respected right throughout this planet, and more importantly on the motherland, in Africa. So,
a question I need to ask in that case, and can I just pick up? So you mentioned the Jamaican intelligentsia. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us a little more about the Jamaican intelligentsia. Those who are highly qualified. Go ahead.
There are some Jamaicans who do not understand the nature of our struggle. They don't understand our history. They don't take time out to understand the history of our people.
Mm-hmm.
And they tend to have a superficial knowledge of things. They don't go back beyond enslavement. They don't go back
Indeed.
to ancient Africa, the greatness
Indeed.
of Africa, and
Indeed.
they certainly don't understand certain things. But they're very good at spouting off about things, saying things to ridicule other people who are trying to make a difference.
Yes.
And so, unfortunately, I would say that a lot of them are miseducated.
Mm-hmm.
And they show that when they ridicule the looks, how our Rasta brothers and sisters look,
Yes.
and the message that they give. Not
Thank you
reading
for
and
that.
not having a deep understanding.
Yeah. Thank you. If I may then,
Okay.
let me just follow through, if I may.
Yeah.
But of course, you also noted in this particular paragraph the lack of coverage by the international media. When you did realize that was so, how did it make you feel that the international media, right across the world, in other words, were effectively trying to ignore the call by African states for compensation of indeed $770 trillion? Well, how does that make you feel when you could observe the international media effectively trying to dish it? Okay.
Now, I wasn't surprised by lack of coverage. I expected it
Mm-hmm.
because what I know now is that the Western media, most of them, are part of the tools which the West used to suppress other nations.
Yes.
Especially when they go to war against somebody, they all fall behind the government of the West.
That's right.
In supporting the war. They hardly deviate. So it's the Western powers would recognize this as a demand for trillions of dollars for compensation to buy Africans as a threat to their economic existence. So I'm not surprised that the coverage was deliberately
suppressed. It was suppressed. Yep.
Suppressed, yeah, deliberately suppressed. In order to not to make even our own people aware what was going on, and because they wanted to control the narrative.
That's right.
And in fact, they I'm sure that they must have thought if they had a narrative, they would say that $777 trillion. They would say that the people are mad. The people calling for that are mad people. It's unrealistic. So that is the direction they would tend to go in, and they would also suppress the call for such reparation. And I would say 773 million is an underestimate.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Can I just take you further in that case? Because you are right. Yeah. It is likely to be under it. But I want to just follow our dialogue in accordance with your article, okay?
Yeah.
The next paragraph in your article, you go on to say, the demand for reparation from the West is just a demand, and Africans throughout the world, especially those of us who are descendants of enslaved, who survived the greatest Holocaust in human history, should join forces to ensure that we are properly compensated. It would not bring back the countless millions murdered during the Middle Passage, during the plantation slavery, and the victims of racism after the abolition of chattel slavery. We are still the victims of mental slavery, nor will it restore the civilization which were destroyed on the African continent and the stolen treasures, much of which went to enhance the wealth of the ruling elite of Western countries, all remained and still remain locked away in their great museums. Now, there's a lot in that paragraph. Unpick it for me. Unpick that paragraph off me. Just talk to that paragraph. So the demand for reparations from the West is just a demand, and Africans throughout the world, especially those of us who are the descendants of enslaved, who survived the greatest Holocaust in human history, should join forces to ensure that we are properly compensated. But it will not bring back the countless millions murdered during the Middle Passage, during the plantation slavery, and the victims of racism after the abolition of chattel slavery. Unpick that part of that paragraph for us. What do you mean by those words?
Yes, well, first of all, I was trying to convey the need for, first and foremost, for unity. We must put up a united front, because that is very important, because we know how the enemy works. The enemy divides and rules in order to conquer. So they will be trying to pick Africans in Africa off from Africans in the diaspora to try to divide. Right? And so, but unity will allow us to prevail. And we know that they are very, very united. They are united under NATO. They have United States of America. They have a European Economic Community where they're also united. Their military forces are united. They work very closely together, and they're very powerful. They control the IMF, the World Bank, many of the financial institutions of the world.
Yes,
they have a history of pillage, murder, anybody who stand up against them.
Yes.
We must not remember what they did to people like Lumumba. They killed a man, put him in acid, and the only thing that was left was his gold.
Can you imagine? Can I ask you to pause it? Because that's, you see, you say it quite almost so quickly. What an abominable way to commit murder, assassination, in fact, against a great human being. And the only reason why they did that, because he's a powerful advocate on behalf of Mother Africa.
Of course.
Can you imagine? And this was the Belgians, of course, did this. Brutal, absolutely brutal. And this happened in our lifetime.
That's right.
It wasn't some centuries ago. It happened in our lifetime.
That's correct.
Professor Patrice Lumumba, they placed him in acid, destroyed his body. So we see the few of the bones remaining.
Breaking the chains of colonial control, we will define our identity. We will define our nations. We will define our future.
Because they were so afraid of what came out of his mouth, his ability to articulate the positions of Africans. That's how, and that is how powerful we are. How powerful we are, and engender that level of fear in what is supposedly a great, mighty Belgian state.
Yes. It was the French were involved, the Belgians were involved, and also the CIA was involved in that. Indeed. So it was a combined effort, and that's how they work.
Declassified documents, international investigations and official government inquiries have proven that Lumumba's execution was a coordinated effort primarily involving Belgian authorities, the United States CIA and Congolese political rivals. The 1975 United States Senate Church Committee revealed that CIA Director Allen Dulles had explicitly ordered Lumumba's assassination as an urgent and prime objective. In 2002, an official Belgian parliamentary commission concluded that the Belgian government bore moral responsibility for the assassination, leading to the formal apology. The inquiry revealed that the Belgian officials transferred Lumumba into the hands of his sworn enemies in the breakaway Katanga province, fully knowing he would likely be killed. A firing squad made up of local Katangan forces executed Lumumba alongside two associates on 17th of January 1961. Belgian officers and mercenaries supervised the execution, and the Belgian police commissioner subsequently dismembered the bodies and dissolved them in acid to raise the evidence. In 2026, a Belgian court ruled that a 93-year-old former Belgian diplomat, Etienne Devon, would stand trial for war crimes related to Lumumba's unlawful detention and transfer, though he passed away shortly after the indictment.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Now, and the other part of this paragraph, you then but you did point this out to us, and it's really important. These actions will not restore the civilizations which were destroyed on the African continent, or indeed restore the stolen treasures. Much of this went to enhance the wealth of the ruling elite here in Western countries. In other words, Britain, France, Belgium, Italy, Spain, Portugal, the Netherlands, and other countries. And you then go on to say, those artifacts, those important artistic works, African works, remain locked away in Western museums or in private collections.
Yes.
I'm told more than 95, up to 98% of all the artifacts and precious artistry is still retained in Western museums or private collections.
Yes. So
how disgusting! Utterly disgusting. Sorry, go ahead.
So, and that is an important part of the struggle that we're going to be facing, to get those stolen treasures returned to the places where they were stolen from. And that is part of the struggle. And we have to be prepared for a very long and bitter fight, because we know the enemy. We know what they're capable of. We have experienced them for the last 400 years, so we know what they're about. But they will not stop our people, because in Marcus Garvey used to talk about 400 million Africans.
Yes.
Going back to Africa, being used to make Africa great. And he was speaking in terms of the Africans worldwide. We are now in the Western countries that we were, in the Western countries, in the Americas, in Europe, and in Africa. Our numbers is almost 1 billion, 2 billion, almost 2 billion.
Correct.
So we have the numbers. We have the numbers.
Yes.
What we need is organization, with leadership, the determination to succeed, and to make tremendous sacrifices.
Can I ask you to pause there? Because that's perfect.
Yes.
I think want to just go on to the next paragraph in your article, which is powerful. equally as powerful. And you say this: reparation should include the comprehensive return of those items such as bronze pieces from Benin in Nigeria, locked away in the British Museum in London, along with other stolen treasures from Africa. What reparation will do, it brings some much needed closure to this mother of all crimes. We must not allow ourselves to go through history as one of the most victimized races in all of humanity without securing justice. Failure to demand and to secure justice will cause history to hold Africans in contempt as a race of worthless beings without the courage to demand what any other race would fight for, had they experienced the same as Africans. Boy, you just laid down to us there. You laid down to us. Tell us more. What was, because that's a bit of a challenge to us all to take responsibility for this campaign. Tell us more.
No, I first of all, my experience in England taught me a lot of things. I went through a lot of struggles in England to become what I become.
Yes.
And I know that not all of us will share the same position. Some will say, let bygones be bygones. Let us forgive and forget.
Oh dear.
But that is a colossal mistake, because what we experience in England is lack of respect.
Absolutely.
And wherever the black man goes on this planet, outside of Africa, the Caribbean, if we go to North America, Canada, if we go to any European countries, and even sometimes, unfortunately, if we go to places like China and India, there's lack of respect for the black man, because they have seen, the world, the planet has seen where we endured 300 years of enslavement. We made the West rich and powerful, and we do not have the courage to demand what is rightfully ours. And what is rightfully ours is to be compensated for the tremendous damage, the murders, the rapes that our people have suffered for over 300 years. We cannot allow our history to be tainted like this. We have a duty to rise up and demand justice, compensation for the damages suffered, the return of the stolen artifacts, the stolen treasures to their rightful places of origin. It is a duty of every single black man and woman on this planet to fight. Make this a fight, a personal fight, a fight for justice, fight for liberation. And we know that they are going to resist.
Yes.
And I tell you, sometimes they resist just for the fun of it.
Yes. No, I've noticed.
They're rubbing our faces in the ground. They enjoy it. I know them because I've lived with them, I work with them, I've seen them. So I know the type of people. Not all of them are like that, but a good number of them are like that. So we need to restore our place on this planet.
Yes.
Well
said. No, you've said it. You've said it, and it's well articulated. And your words will resonate with tens of millions of our peoples. Okay.
Thank you.
Your article then moves forward with this paragraph. The enslavement of Africans can be regarded as a crime against humanity. In fact, as you know, the United Nations have concurred with you. Okay, and as such, we need not be concerned ourselves too much with the lengthy passage of time since chattel slavery was abolished throughout the British Empire. The statute of limitation is no impediment to the demand by Africans for reparation. Let me say that section again, really important. I'm going to say it again. The statute of limitation is no impediment to the demand by Africans for reparations. Moreover, the abolition of slavery was not universal. From 1838 in Spanish and Portuguese-controlled territories, it continued within a decade or so of the 20th century, e.g., Cuba and Brazil. In other words, it was continuing in those two countries. Let's talk about the second half of that paragraph. Because I must say, until I read it, I've made some assumption, in fact, that the abolition affected the whole of the European countries, as opposed to just simply Britain. And it was quite shocking because I had to go away and do some research to realize, no, it had continued in Brazil and indeed in Cuba. Tell us more about that. How did you find that out, please?
Well, I found that out because I read the history of Cuba. And from that, I realized that, it continued in Cuba for a very long time, almost right up to the 20th century. And it was the same in Brazil.
Yes.
But the other thing is that the fact that the abolition of slavery took place in the British case in 1838, which was over 150 odd years ago, and in other places over 100 years ago. The length of that, and one of the things that some of the Western leaders say is that, it's such a long time ago this took place. And we weren't really directly involved. That's something our ancestors did, and we should not be held liable for them. So they used that as a means to try to escape responsibility in the 21st century.
That's right, yes.
But they're just fooling themselves, because everybody knows that many of those very distinguished old families who benefited from slavery are still around. They still enjoy enjoy the ill-gotten gains.
Yes.
The countries that took a lead role are now powerful countries, G7 countries, and they boast about it.
Yes.
They take pride in being G7 countries.
That's
they
right.
They take pride in the level of their development. They look down on us.
Indeed.
They look down, having gotten where they are from the backs of our ancestors. They look down on us in the 21st century. They have no respect for us. So we cannot allow them to retain their ill-gotten gains, their unjust enrichment. And so the fight for reparation is to settle that score.
Absolutely.
We need to settle it. We cannot allow them to go unsettled, because then they will laugh at us.
Absolutely.
They will think that we are weak. And
we're not going to let that happen. We're not going to let that happen. No, we're not going to let that happen. So let
We are
me
not
move
weak.
forward.
We are powerful.
Powerful
We are
indeed.
powerful people.
Powerful indeed. Powerful indeed.
Look at our athletes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why we dominate, because we are not weak, we are powerful. We have
Yes.
survived this Holocaust when others have died out.
That's
We
right.
are now in the West, we are in the millions.
Yes,
We are in the millions, hundreds of millions in the West.
indeed.
Because we are strong. We are a strong people. We are a blessed people.
So, Joe, let me, if I may now, let me just take us forward, because why we're talking now. Because next part of your article, the next paragraph, was quite important, if I may. You now talk about the more contemporary times. It's entitled Colonialism.
Right.
Now, let me read. The intervention of colonialism up until the 1960s meant that Africa and the African diaspora was not until recently in a position to demand reparations. Nor should Africans be dissuaded by the sheer strengths of the Western countries concerned, who continue to dominate the planet with tremendous organizations. And, the organizations are like the United Nations, indeed, the World Bank, the IMF, I assume. Collective strength and the use of correct strategies. Africans can also be victorious, even if it takes a lengthy period to achieve. Apart from the recent award coming out of Germany, there has also been a number of other useful precedents, such as the reparation paid by the USA to the internment of Japanese Americans during the Second World War. Japan compensation to Koreans who were used as sex slaves during the Second World War, and to those nations who suffered under Japanese occupation during the war. So there's a lot in that paragraph.
Yeah.
Just unpick it for us. So let's start with the first section, of course, where you identify the relationship between ourselves in 1960 and these European countries using their supernatural organizations, such as the World Bank, IMF, United Nations, indeed, in order as a mean to defend against our demand. Let's unpick that part of the paragraph first.
Okay. The reason why I mentioned the colonial period is because many of our countries didn't achieve independence until the 1960s.
Yeah.
So, whilst we were colonized, we were not in any position to call for reparations. So, and then even after independence, a lot of countries, a lot of the African countries and Caribbean countries were subject to what we call neocolonialism, which was dominated by these Western financial institutions who lay down terms. And if you didn't follow those terms, they would withdraw the funds. And then you would slip into all kind of depression and economic disaster. So we for a very long time, even after independence, we were never in a position to really call for reparations because of the continued dominance of the Western countries over us.
Yes.
And it's only as we approach the 21st century that we've had the confidence to really demand reparations for the sufferings of our people. And it's also recognition that our people are becoming stronger.
Yes.
And we are not at all fearful of them anymore. And
certainly not.
We are prepared to die for what we believe, because
Praise God.
we will not tolerate this anymore. They Our cause is right. We have a just cause, and we are 2 billion strong.
Let me now
And
take you to the
we are
second part of that
right.
article. Let me take you to the second part of that
Yes.
paragraph, sorry, where you then identify where reparations have been paid. You mentioned Germany, we spoke to them earlier on, but you also then went on to speak about the Americans and the compensating Japanese Americans for their internment. And of course, you mentioned Japan. Compensations to Korea for the prostitution of Korean women. Just unpick those two aspects. The Americans compensation to American Japanese. Yeah.
Right. So I'm basically saying that these are precedents. These are examples where these forces that dominate the planet have paid reparations. The Americans paid reparations to the Japanese Americans who were interned in prison of war camps. The Koreans were compensated by the Japanese for sex slavery.
Yes.
And, so those are examples that we could use in our fight for reparation because, and in law, they tend to go on precedents. If you have a precedent that can win you a case, you use it. So this is an example of us using precedents that I've come across where reparations were paid for a terribly wrong and injustice to another set of people. Japanese and Koreans, Japanese Americans and Koreans.
That's right.
So I thought that was important because we need to look at a precedent that exists as part of the struggle.
Okay, and in that vein, I'm just going to move forward in the article to the claims against government section.
Yes,
and what you say. As far as the historical data is concerned, we have more than enough material for this. We must thank great scholars such as Dr. Indeed, Walter Rodney, Antia Diop, of course. Yep.
Yeah,
Chancellor William. Yep, and Chancellor William, Eric Williams. I believe, and indeed many others, because slavery was sanctioned by, and I'm going to use the word, I'm going to speak very slowly now because it's really important for the audience to hear this. Slavery was sanctioned by the governments of Western countries. Our claims should be against the governments of those countries. And indeed, some of the companies and families, I say again, some of the companies that exist today and families, absolutely, who we know were being compensated, should also, families which benefited from slavery are still with us and now should be as good a time as any for them to cleanse their conscience for their unjust enrichment. In some way, a number of German companies which profited from the slave labor during the wars have been obliged to contribute to the multi-billion compensation fund. Okay, so that's really important. I did want to read on a little more on the article. There will be those who will point fingers to the involvement of Africans in the slave trade and the role of the Arabs, which we need to bear in mind is that once Africans were taken from Africa during the transatlantic slave trade, they were at the mercy of Western Europeans who subjected them to the horrendous crimes which the call for reparations derived. These same Western nations went on to colonize Africa and in turn turn it into one gigantic plantation, where they continued their great crime, such as the genocide committed by King Leopold of Belgium in Congo, by the Germans in Southwest Africa, Namibia, and the French and Spanish in North Africa, as well as the British in territories controlled by them. We must not forget their role with the Dutch in South Africa. Powerful. Just haven't picked those two paragraphs. There's a lot embedded there.
Right. I think it's right. So we go against the governments because the governments sponsored the slave trade.
Absolutely.
And so that means that we have every right to go against the national treasury of these countries. So it wasn't a private thing necessarily. It was something was sponsored on a gigantic scale by the state itself. They build the ships. Only states can build the slave ships, yes. And all the other elements of the slave trade, the insurance of the ships, and the enslaved persons on the ship was all done at the national level. Everything was done at the national level. Mm-hmm. So we have to bear that in mind when we go against these countries, because they cannot say that they did not, they were not involved, they did not know about it. They can't say that it was a private thing by others. Mm-hmm. It was the state itself that was leading. Yes. According to them, their right to enslave our people. Go to Africa, take our people from Africa, take them to the Americas, and keep them enslaved there for 300 years.
That's right.
And one of the things that we need to bear in mind is that when our people were taken and they to be enslaved in the Americas, mm-hmm. they were worked to death. Yes. The life expectancy was no more than 7. In Jamaica, no more than 7 years.
Yes.
So the conditions of slavery was extremely severe.
Brutal.
People
Brutal.
just died on the job. They whipped them. They gave them substandard food. They did not provide proper medical care. They were just there to serve naked greed of these people. Yeah. And so we need to bear in mind that it's at the state level that our attention should be directed in terms of reparation. They cannot. The nations of the West cannot hide from this. The governments of these countries are responsible.
But you're going to say in that paragraph, it's most certainly the government. Then you identify the corporations, yeah? Right. And of course the families. Let's talk about the corporations and families for a moment.
Well. Many banks got rich from slavery. Yep. Many insurance companies got rich.
Lloyd's of London, for example.
Exactly. Barclays Bank and so forth.
And Barclays, there's another one.
So they then what they do? Once they got rich, they invested the money in great universities. And a lot of colleges in Cambridge and Oxford have benefited from the enslavement of our people. The churches, the Anglican Church, the Catholic Church.
That's right.
Most of the mainstream churches, Christian churches, in these countries profited from the enslavement of our people and built up great wealth
That's right. That's right.
And they still have that wealth from those times. So it was a major operation. The enslavement of our people was not a minor thing. It was a tremendous activity, which was organized at a national level,
Yes.
right throughout the Western countries.
Yes.
So going against them is the correct course, proper course to take. Those families would call themselves old money.
Indeed.
We need to seek them out and get them to pay up as well.
Well said.
So we so we know who they are.
We know they are.
Yeah, we know who they are. So we're going to go after them as well.
And thank you, because that was the first part of your article. There's two parts, but for this phase of our dialogue, and I'll wrap up now. It's just really part one, and you can see, people, why I have Joe here, and you notice he did his research. Similar. He did his research, thorough piece of research. It's evidence based. And it's difficult to contradict anything he's described thus far, because he's simply reciting history as is, the facts as is. And the justification for our call for reparations is as is. It's there on paper. He cited precedents. It's there on paper. It's there in the international community. And for that reason, it's important to have him, an ordinary Jamaican. And there are many Jamaican men just like him, and women, I must say, who think about these issues, consider these issues, and are now articulating their thoughts through their writings. I want to encourage others to do the same, because that adds to the body of evidence, the clarity of thought, in what you see in this article. Why I, the motivator, was thereby, I had no choice. I had to call him and say, well, this is quite interesting, sir. We need to talk and listen to him. Yeah? The power and majesty of his words. And there is absolutely no doubt that we will never give up. We'll be absolutely relentless in our call. And it's not a question of being fearless. We have no choice. For the reasons he's described, you cannot hold your head up high amongst the nations of the world if you're not prepared to defend your own nation. And if you're not seeking reparations, you're not seeking compensation for the brutality, the criminality of others, then they will look down upon you as being less than. And in my view, with some justification. Jarrett, I want to thank you for what was a truly illuminating article. What will be your closing words to the audience? And I will share the article with them. What's your closing word to the audience?
What I would say is this: we must never give up.
No.
We must always be united. There's unity and strength. We must be aware that they will try to divide us, because that has been their traditional tactics from time immemorial, is to divide, rule, and conquer. And we must not allow them to do that to our people. Every African must be part of this struggle. Every African, no matter where you are. If you're in the motherland, in the Caribbean, in America, in UK, in France, in Belgium, you are part of this fight. You are not separated from it, because our existence, our dignity is at stake.
Yes.
And we must not allow what happened to our people to go unremedied. And we must be prepared to fight, to make sacrifices. And we are fighting. When they took our people out of Africa, a lot of our peoples were captured warriors.
Yes.
And that is why we have this warrior spirit in us, especially in Jamaica.
Yes.
But also in other parts of the diaspora, in America. There's this, we are warriors. We are not afraid of them. We have been fighting them for a very long time. So we know what they're like. And the Iranian people in Iran, they are learning. They are seeing what these people are. In Gaza, they are seeing what these people are like. Same people supporting each other to commit genocide. We know what they are. And we must be ready to fight, to stand for justice, to struggle like the warriors we are. And I would say, God bless Marcus Garvey. God bless
Honorable.
Kwame Nkrumah.
Honorable.
Julius Nyerere, Nelson Mandela.
Honorable.
Right? And all our female warriors.
Yes.
Our fight is not finished. It just come. It just come. We're just coming.
Just
We have much more to do.
Thank you. Thank you. I have to say, truly inspired word. Truly inspired word. Let me just do this for you. Why? Yes. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right. Yes, sir. Right. Let it go. Rock it now. Rock it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, outstanding, huh? Outstanding. An ordinary Jamaican. An ordinary Jamaican. Yeah. When Jamaican men and women stand together, yeah, in unity is strength. When Jamaican men and women stand together, in unity is strength. When Barbadian men and women stand together, in unity is strength. When Grenadian men and women stand together, in unity is strength. In Trinidadian men and women stand together, and Tobago stand together, in unity is strength. In St. Lucian men and women stand together, in unity is strength. When Dominican men and women stand together, in unity is strength. When the Cuban men and women stand together, in unity is strength. Praise Jah, Rastafari. Wow. Well done, Joe. Huh? That was just an ordinary Jamaican man, but written an article expressing his thoughts. He articulated them with such passion, poignancy here on the Motivator Show. And there are many thousands like him. Yep. Right across the Caribbean, right across Africa, here in Europe. Many thousands, men and women just like him. Praise be, praise be. And look, before you go, I would encourage you, if this is your first visit to the channel, it's important to help the YouTube algorithm to work. If you are give us a thumbs up, leave a thumbs up, would be very nice. And that tells the algorithm you like the content, okay? If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Again, that really does help us to spread the word. It really does help us to spread the word. But if you have questions, please write to us. Happy to answer any questions you might have. And I'll put the our email address on the screen in a moment. And in doing so, we wish to encourage you to continue our dialogue together. There you are. Our email address is demotivatorshow501@gmail.com. There you are. Demotivatorshow501@gmail.com. Love to hear from you. And if you've got ideas of other subjects we can address, send your suggestions to us via that email account. Thank you very much. But don't go just yet. There's two issues we want to bring to your attention. Okay. The first issue, of course, is, of course, my most recent guest, of course, Glenn Y. Watson of the Global African Congress. Okay. What we will do, and if you're not part of our WhatsApp or email circulation, send your details to us via our email address, okay? And we'll include you on the distribution listings, okay? I know Glenn would want me to say we wish to encourage you all to come along and attend the Global African Congress family gathering in September, okay? And I will put, as I say, further details and distribute further details about that to you all. And the last issue, but not least, and be assured it is not least, and that's the issue of your health. Yeah. Look, many of you stayed with us, have watched this and been dedicated, and we appreciate you. But we are very conscious that we are experiencing, particularly as African peoples, a public health emergency. And therefore, we're not going to shy away from it here on the Motivator Show for reasons which you understand. Okay. Now, particularly Africans from the Caribbean, okay, are suffering particular public health concern. But certainly here in Europe and the US and parts of Africa, most certainly in the US, United States of America. And what I'm about to say will resonate with you, because some of you will be very much aware of the issues that we're about to bring to your attention. And we bring it to you in the closing minutes of this episode of The Motivator Show, so that you will understand that we have not forgotten that we are an holistic environment, an environment in which we take care of your physical, your mental and spiritual health. But I want you to listen to the words of the Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, Professor Hilary Beckles. He discussed the issue of diabetes and hypertension or high blood pressure. Listen to his words.
We have 60% of the black people in the Caribbean over the age of 60 have hypertension or diabetes, or both. Now, if you take the single criterion of chronic diseases, hypertension, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, if you take that simple criterion, the black people in the Caribbean are the unhealthiest people on the planet. And you have to understand that. On the one hand, we are watching Usain Bolt and we're watching the Caribbean athletes. We're watching the Caribbean with an image of being the most athletic people on the planet. But beneath that image of these super sportsmen and women is the hard reality that we are now the sickest people on the planet. In every black family in the Caribbean, hypertension and diabetes is endemic and congenital. In my family, almost everybody over 60 has hypertension and diabetes.
I want you to recall what he just said. In his family, every member over 60 have either diabetes or high blood pressure. Can you imagine? This is the Professor Henry Beckles' own family, a very learned family. Yet, that is happening to them. But these are conditions which are avoidable. These are fundamentally lifestyle conditions. In other words, in terms of your exercise, what you eat, and your mental health, and so on. It's all part of our conditioning. But you, making the right decision, daily decisions, can defend or mitigate the likelihood of you gaining one of those conditions. And the other issue, of course, is obesity or fatness within the community, particularly amongst our women. Here in Europe, the Caribbean, or the Americas, it is clearly a profound issue, and part of Africa, clearly a big, profound issue, which we have to tackle head on. The Motivator Show will not shy away from such issues. Good words from the Public Health Director for London. He just happened to be a Jamaican man, Professor Kevin Fenton. London and some of the home counties is his patch. His words of advice are as follows, and I've always found listening to this on a daily basis a clear reminder what I need to do to maintain good health and well-being, good mental, spiritual, and physical health.
Professor Kevin Fenton says, I'm a public health director. Here are 5 things you can do to improve your health. 1. Mindful and balanced eating. Nourish wisely. Eat whole, balanced meals with awareness to support energy and well-being. 2. Get outside. Be with nature. Time outside reduces stress, improves mood, and strengthens your connection to the world. 3. Stay curious, stay engaged, explore new interests, keep your mind sharp, build social contacts, and boost your happiness. 4. Get active, move it or lose it. Move daily, lift weight, and do cardio. Exercise, improve physical, mental, mood, and energy. 5. Prioritize rest and sleep. Disconnect, rest. Quality sleep supports mental clarity, emotional balance, and overall health.
Yep, common sense advice from Professor Kevin Fenton. And I encourage you to replay his thoughts, his wise advice to us all, how to maintain good health and well-being. I play that on a daily basis to remind myself, I need it, remind myself how to ensure I maintain good health and well-being. But what we're heartened by is a number of you come together, common aim and common purpose. Understood, if you work together and pull your resources together, you will grow together. In doing so, you'll be united, healthier, and stronger together. And I'm really heartened by the number of groups who've now sprung up across London, across Britain, and indeed and beyond, who've responded to these calls that if we work together, we can stay healthier together. I'm going to play just for a minute or so a quick excerpt from a group of people who've come together in common aim and common purpose. Well, sure exemplars, perfect examples of what we need to do together. There they are. See? The different sizes, big and they're small, wide and they're thin. Yes, they've come together to exercise together, pull their resources together, and are now exercising together. Look at that. They even have their children in the room, observing their parents, yet their guardians, what they should do to maintain good health. And with those examples, success is assured. There you are. I'm going to pause that there. That's what's happened. They came together, common aim and common purpose, pulled their resources and hired the facilities so they can exercise together. They call themselves Countdown. You know, they're one of our local groups here in London that I've been most certainly using as a foundational exemplar for others to follow. And there have been many others who've now followed them. And look, if you're in London and you want to reach out and be a part of that exercise session, I'm going to encourage you to do so. Let me put the details on the screen now. There you are. They meet every Monday and Wednesday between 6:30 and 8 p.m. And the address is 12 Chatham Street, Wharf in London. And the postcode is S for sugar, E17 1TN. Email address, reach out to them is countdown 0405@gmail.com. Countdown 0405@gmail.com. And of course, their mobile number, if you're in the UK, it's 07960803588. And I've got to say, I commend that organisation. I really commend them. They're having a sports day today. I'm going to join them. I'll take a few pictures. I'll share them with you next time I'm here live. But I look forward to the Countdown Sports Day in Southwark Sports Stadium, and I believe it has now started. It's from now until 5 o'clock, I believe. It'll be a fantastic occasion. Look, if you're in London, come to Southwark Sports Stadium. Okay, it is in Southwark. The nearest station, I believe, is on the Jubilee line, Southwark Station, I believe. I'm assuring you, it will be a place to meet me, meet local public representatives, and meet the members of Countdown. They're running their 100th. It'll be a worthwhile experience. A worthwhile experience. Well done, Countdown. Keep up the good works and the many hundreds of other organizations that have sprung up as a result of your inspirational example. Well done. Well done. Okay, I believe that's me done for today. It has been truly an inspiring hour or two. I know that Joe's interview was an outstanding experience. Please spread the word of the Motivator Show. Keep helping us to spread the word, and together we will make the difference. Oh, now I need to get myself prepared for Countdown, you see. So here you go. I've got to get exercise again. But this is a serious matter in regards to reparations. We will never give up. Our cause is just. Our ancestors demand that we are resolute in our determination. And we will win. And we will win. And we will win. We will win.
Hundreds and thousands Jamaican men and women have since independence called on the British monarch and British institutions to pay reparations for the illegal enslavement of Africans. Reparations now. Reparations now.